You are watching Ukraine Today, where we are joined by Mr. Sulev Kannike for a two-part interview, Estonia's ambassador to Ukraine. Mr. Ambassador, recently we have seen two of America's most modern fighter planes, F-22 jets, make a landmark visit to Estonia. This was the first time they visited a former country of the Soviet Republic. Can I ask you, what can we expect to see from NATO in Estonia in the coming months and years?
Thank you for that question, and as former ambassador to NATO, security questions are close to my heart. And these two planes you mentioned, of course, they are very modern and got into news because of that. But actually, immediately after the Crimea events, already in April last year, NATO and US brought down NATO fighter planes to Estonia because NATO is air policing the Baltic airspace, but the main airfield is in Lithuania now. Now we have very modern €1 billion NATO airbase in Estonia, and really these planes are there. But that was enhancement of NATO and US troops level in Estonia, also in Navy, regarding the Navy operations and land forces. And now there are not very big, but anyway, US land forces presence in Estonia, with armoured cars and Abrams tanks. They came in first in October last year, and then enforcement came in May this year. And we are working for that NATO countries' ships and Navy are patrolling Baltic Sea and coming to Estonian ports as frequently as possible, at least once a month or so. So much is going on the spot. And of course there are also other dimensions of what NATO is doing to revise his plans, political and military plans at NATO headquarters in Brussels. And of course there is other aspect of what Estonia itself is doing to defend better its country, because NATO or not NATO, the defense of your country is first priority for every NATO member. So, right, a lot of going on in Estonia now.
We've recently seen an increase in NATO exercises in Baltic and Eastern European countries. Is this something that we can expect to see more of?
Certainly, but from our side it's maybe not even the most important to make very big NATO exercises which are in news, etc. These have deterrence effect and have political significance, but our policy is to rotate NATO and first of all US these units on our ground, rotational basis, maybe after 6 months, maybe even after 3 months, that we are not planning now to set up or build some Cold War style NATO-based strong concrete base in Estonia. But we want our allies coming in, training commanders, getting to know Estonian Defence Forces, operational procedures, our landscape, climate, etc. They're going out, new units or troops are coming in. And so we are going to the regime of permanent training and we can say a permanent exercise now. And we are in this phase already now.
The United States has also recently announced plans to move heavy weaponry into Baltic and Eastern countries. Would you say this is a direct result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
I guess we can say so, because this idea was in the air, of course, already a long time. And in Norway there has been so-called pre-positioned NATO equipment and armament during the Cold War, and they kept their storages. So this is not something innovative or new idea. And we worked on that, but we didn't press very much of that. But now we see, of course, the need for this pre-positioning, because not only for simply defense reasons, but if we are going to this permanent rotational training exercise cycle, then it's very expensive to bring down every time new tanks and new artillery, etc. And even new automatic weapons. It's better to simply to store it there. New unit men are coming, bringing them up and going to the field.
In August, we saw Russia conduct a large 6-day military exercise very close to the Estonian border. A few weeks, if not days later, Estonia announced they would construct a fence along the 110-kilometre border with Russia. Can we ask about the security situation in Estonia aside from NATO? What are Estonia doing as a deterrent?
At the present situation, of course, we can say that we see Russia as an enemy. We see it as unpredictable neighbor and because, of course, dangerous. Because if you don't know what is coming from east, there is always, you have to be alert. And you mentioned the border fence. Mm-hmm. This is a bit separated item from our military defense plans, because we have negotiated with Russians border treaty already in the beginning of this century, and this is even signed but not ratified from both sides. And we haven't built up our border line waiting simply then the exact line will be established. But now, because of Ukrainian events and all this political situation in Baltic area, really our border guard, not military, but border guard decided and the government that it's time, more or less unilaterally, to set up some border facilities. But everybody is understanding that this fence is not defense against tanks if they are coming. So all our NATO planning and these trainings and our allies coming in and out of Estonia, this is what we guess our neighbor is getting the political signal, because touching a NATO member, this would be a global mess, not less, not more.
And one final question, Mr. Ambassador. Last year, the Kremlin attempted to justify their invasion of Ukraine by protecting, or at least saying they were protecting, the rights of Russian speakers in the country. What measures are Estonia taking to ensure that Russian language propaganda is not spread within the country?
Talking about facts, Estonia's population, say 1.3 million, and Russian speakers are about 25% of that. And all of them are not, of course, ethnic Russians. There are Ukrainians, people coming from other former Soviet republics up to Chechens and Uzbeks, etc. Mostly they are really speaking Russian language. And we are doing our own polls to see how our minorities are living. And the picture seems to be that 70% of these 25% are more or less satisfied that Estonia is a member of the European Union. And we can conclude from that they are not very eager to be a member of any other unions. You have always asked, what is your priorities? You have to keep democracy and freedom of speech, and of course you have to some kind respond to nasty propaganda coming over your country's borders. We have now trying to balance this freedom of speech and propaganda setup. We haven't prohibited any Russian TV channels. I don't know there is any list prohibiting Russian movies or talk shows, etc., coming or provided by Estonian cable TV stations. But we are setting up our own Russian language TV channel or broadcast platform now from the next year, TV Plus. Because we had a Russian language radio channel, we have 8 or more Russian language newspapers in Estonia. Not all friendly to Estonian government, but it's normal in democratic country. We have to expect that our citizens, and even not citizens, but residents of Estonia, have their own brains. Most of them, and most of them have. This is our general approach.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. You have been watching Ukraine Today, where we have been joined by Mr. Sulev Kannike, Estonia's ambassador to Ukraine. Thank you for watching.